That's right. Common denominator, you. I'm going to switch gears for just a minute, even though it's related. I loved your article, by the way, in this week's West End Times on premarital disclosure. I was, reading through it and all the questions. I mean, you can say what you talked about here, but the things you need to disclose to your partner before you get married.
In the way I teach it, there's a relationship hierarchy. When you get to the point where you are engaged to be married, that's pretty high up in the hierarchy. That's the time you need to sit down with your partner and go through a full disclosure. And you need to ask every question that is important to you, even if you think that your partner had nothing to do with that in their past. If it's an issue that's important to you, you darn well better ask that question.
Well, when I was reading, I was looking at your list of questions and saying, oh my God, half of these things I wouldn't even have thought of, like, do you have any illegitimate children? That might come back to, in 20 years from now that were given away for adoption? Or do you have, there's a lot, do you have a criminal record? I mean, these are things that, you would want to know because they can come back to bite you in the butt.
When you're about to pledge your life.
Sex tape.
Yes. Anything. Here's the criteria. If you answer the following question, if my fiancé knew the following about me, my fiancé might not marry me.
Yeesh.
Whatever the answer to that question is, that's what you need to sit down and tell your fiancé.
Okay.
Did you ever pose nude for an ex and your ex is in possession of those pictures? Your fiancé needs to know that. Why? Because after your fiancé becomes your spouse, they share in whatever punishment that you may get if your ex decides to be vindictive.
Right, that's true.
Did you have a child with somebody out of wedlock that was given up for adoption that might come knocking on your door in the future? At one time, all adoption records were sealed, but in some jurisdictions, that is changing.
Sure, drastically. You can have access now.
Okay, and we have no idea what the legal ramifications of this is going to be.
Have you ever been a sperm donor?
Exactly, that's something else. Have you ever been a sperm donor? Have you ever participated in the sex trade industry?
Ooh.
Whether you worked as a sex worker, whether you worked, maybe you were a client.
Uh-huh.
I remember.
So you would disclose that if you were a client?
Well,
if you frequented prostitutes?
I think you should, because it's something that might come up. Whenever I've talked with women who worked in the sex industry, even during a short period of time just to get themselves through school, it's happened where they meet up with somebody in an office boardroom and it turns out that one person there was the client and she was the sex worker. And it's very awkward.
Right.
But your spouse needs to know that about your history. Whenever a spouse says to me or somebody says to me, well, my spouse doesn't need to know everything about me. 20 years ago, there were ways to keep secrets a secret forever. Not anymore. Not with Facebook, not with your entire history. I believe we were talking about this just the other day when we know people who are using Facebook to connect with people that they haven't seen in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, I know. It's wonderful in one way, but they could come back to haunt you, right? Because they can post something about something you did way back then or whatever.
And I'm not talking about the embarrassing moments. I'm not talking about the silly things we all do, the mistakes we all make.
Of course, because we all do them.
But if it's something that would go against the values of your current partner should be in a position to make an informed decision. If you and your last partner, prior to dating your current fiancé, led a very wild lifestyle that your current partner would never have approved of, you got to let your current partner know.
Right.
Because when those pictures or those stories or those...
Or somebody mentions it.
It's better that your partner hears it from you than from some stranger who might want to use it against you. We all have enemies. Okay? Relationships all have enemies because there's always somebody that doesn't want to see you and your partner together. Why give them the ammunition? Why give them the power to turn you and your partner against one another? Be honest with your partner. And if you are with somebody that you can't be honest with, that's a sign that you shouldn't be engaged to begin with.
Yeah, and I remember speaking to one guy who had before he got married, had lived in a homosexual relationship with a guy and then married a woman, never told the woman that he'd been gay for all those years.
Now, what's going to happen when she finds out?
And some of us knew about it. It's not, I don't know if she ever found out. It's kind of scary, actually. And I'm sure he lived on eggshells thinking, oh, my God, what if this comes out?
The only way you're going to hide a lie is to keep on lying, and that's not a way to live.
And that's certainly not a way to have a healthy relationship, which is really what we've been talking about. Frank, time flies by when we're having so much fun here together.
It's a shame. I miss being here so much.
Well, at least we can keep track of you weekly on the West End Times. Thanks for writing these great articles. Keep us on our toes there. Thank you all for listening. Very much appreciated. Mike Babbins, thank you for your technical work here tonight. If you need to reach me, passion@cjad.com. Follow us on Facebook just join our Passion Facebook group. Would love to have you on. There was a glitch in the thing, and we had all these hundreds of members, and all of a sudden they all disappeared, so you have to rejoin. So now I'm just asking everybody just to rejoin. You can also follow me on Twitter @Dr. Laurie Sex Talk. News is coming up next, followed by the CJD Comedy Show with your fabulous host, Joey Elias. Have a great rest of the night, and please remember, life is short, so take the time to smell the flowers and indulge your passions.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.